Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to Adrian's Digital Basement 2. Today we're going to be looking at stuff. I have let things get out of hand. This is a combination of things that people have mailed in, like a couple packages here, but predominantly there's stuff that I brought home from VCF shows, vintage computer festivals. Most of the stuff in this big box, or maybe everything that's in here in this bag, this is all stuff from VCF Midwest last year, 2025, and I have a small selection of things over here on the right. This comes from VCF in Seattle, which happened last month. So I'm going to try to go through some of this in this video. I don't presume I'm going to get through all of it because there is a lot of random stuff. And unfortunately, the things that are from Chicago from last year are sort of maybe September or October. I forgot when the exact date was. I don't exactly remember what everything is in here. So hopefully, I try to ask people to write their names down on stuff when they give me things. That way, when I go to work on it, I'm not so lost. But I've noticed a few things don't have names, so I apologize if there are things in here that you have given me that I don't know what they are. So I think what I'm going to do is we'll just start on the left here and make our way through all of this, because the things over here are, I don't know, I'm just made it up. I'm just going to start on the left and make my way to the right, and we'll see how much I get through. And then there'll probably be multiple videos on the second channel. Time to rearrange the camera situation. Right, let's just start with this. This came from David, and David gave this to me at VCF in Seattle. And if you notice, it's got Apple logos on it and a $5 price tag. And what this is pretty amazing, actually. It's a boxed copy of the Apple III soft card. Now, what the soft card is a Z80 card for the Apple III. Well, there's an Apple II version as well, made by Microsoft that lets you run CP/M on those computers. I didn't actually know that there was a version for the Apple III, but then I hardly know much about the Apple III anyways. Look at these, look at those traces. They're all wavy and stuff. Very cool. By Microsoft, 1982. There's the Z80, Italian Z80. So, you know, it talks with an accent. No, just kidding. Yeah, it's kind of cool, right? Now in here, apparently we have, what is this? Warranty card. There it is, CP/M version. A couple discs that actually have Apple logos. So this was something that was obviously sold by Apple, even though it was a Microsoft product, copyright Microsoft 92 and Apple 1982. There's our CP/M serial number. So we have two bits of software here. SOS, that's the operating system on the Apple III. This is, I guess, utilities, probably to copy stuff between CP/M and the Apple III. Now, apparently, the manual does exist for this, though David couldn't find it. So David's going to send that to me, and that way I will have the original manual. Oh, there's some more stuff here, too. Let's take a look at this. Got to zoom out a little bit. Welcome to the Apple family. Congratulations, you purchased one of the first finest computers in the world. It will serve you in business, education, entertainment applications for years to come. Really? The Apple III was a huge failure? That is a lie from Apple. Look at, there it is. Accessories, blah, blah, blah. I need to get my Apple III out. The Apple III has been upstairs. It worked last time I used it, but it's been years and years at this point. The Apple User Input Report. This is interesting. Anyhow, and then we have errata. So yeah, no manual, but the manual is getting sent to me that, yeah, David was able to find it. Now the word is, if I recall what David told me, and luckily the VCF was recent, unlike the one in Chicago where I've kind of forgotten everything. This was available at a store in the Seattle area. I think it was the Seattle area, and they had a couple of these. And the year was 1985, and it was $5. So I guess blowout sale was already happening for the Apple III stuff by then. So I will need to get my Apple III. That's not going to happen in this video, and we'll be testing this out at some point in the future. But yeah, I didn't know CP/M existed for it, but now I know. And it's pretty cool to have an original boxed copy. I assume this had a sleeve on it originally. It would have had a picture of the Apple III probably running CP/M. That is obviously missing. But if anyone knows about the sleeve that would have gone on here, yeah, let me know. Pretty cool though, huh? All right, next thing was just sitting on the bench. This is a strain relief tool. Now this came from Dave. Dave has already sent me one of these. Let me grab it. It's sitting right here. It's this one. Are these the same or are these different? These must be different. I think Dave saw me struggling with this one, although they certainly look very similar. It says strain relief up to 7/8 of an inch diameter hole. Let's see. This brand is what? Pros Kit. This says Fillmore. Okay. Well, if you're ever working on a power supply and there's a cable gland, I think these are identical, actually. Dave, I'm pretty sure you sent me the other one. I think both of these came from you. Because look at the Taiwan logo. These are the same. That's so funny. You can tell which one I've used, this one. And yeah, okay. Well, anyways, what did you say here? Hopefully this can handle the Aztec CPU grommet easier than the other one you sent. Yeah, so there you go. Dave sent me the other one. Well, unfortunately, Dave, they're the same. So I don't think there's going to be any difference. If we look at the tops here, no difference. Anyhow, very useful tool. Cable gland. If I had a power supply sitting here, I could show it. I think I have some cable glands in my, I'm looking at my organizer. I don't know where they are. Anyways, you know where the cable comes out of a power supply, or the wires, all the connections for the motherboard, stuff like that. There's a plastic thing around it. To get that in and out, you use a tool like this. Essentially, it squeezes the tool or squeezes the gland with this sort of ovally shape. And once you squeeze it down, you can twist it and it just pops out really easily. I was really struggling with the Aztec power supply, which that's still sitting around here in the basement somewhere. The gland was a lot bigger than this tool was really able to handle easily. So I think that's why Dave sent me this extra Fillmore one, supposedly supposed to be bigger, but apparently not. Thank you very much, Dave, for sending that to me, though, even though appears to be a duplicate. Got a package here from James. Just opened it up. Looks like it's floppy disks. And it says Buddha OS install module inside. Okay, so these are not floppy disks, or okay, there are floppy disks in here. Buddha OS. Is this? I'm sure there would have been an email about it. Oh, Super Kickstart. Oh, whoa. Oh, James. Of course. Yeah, I wasn't thinking correctly. James is the person who gave me, among other things, the Amiga 3000 that's sitting there that I've had videos on the main channel. And James reached out to me after I made the video and was like, yeah, there's some stuff for the 3000, including Super Kickstart disk, stuff like that. Now, I have been able to find this, luckily. Looks like we have Workbench 3000 backup, so the copy for that. Kickstart 2.1 image, copy to devs. Interesting. SCSI tools, SCSI mounter for SideQuest, and some other stuff as a handwritten note. Kickstart image 3.1. So I don't know if this is like a Super Kickstart thing, or potentially, oh yeah, this Super Kickstart disk is the version with 3.1 on there. So you can make these Super Kickstart disks. I think by the time this video comes out, I will not have a video showing that off yet, but I have figured that out by now already. But anyways, yeah, Kickstart 3.1 image, Super Kickstart 3.0 image, maybe for 1200 only. We have a GVP fast prep disk. I think that's for a different Amiga. And 060 turbo board, phase 5 digital products. None of the Amiga stuff that I got from James had a 68060 in it. In fact, if you can believe it, and I was just talking to someone about this today, I have never seen a Motorola 68060 in person. I don't even know what the chip looks like. I assume it looks like the 68040, like the same exact chip, like a ceramic package and everything, but I don't actually know. I've never seen one. And of course, I don't have any accelerators that use it. Now, I'm not particularly upset about that because, I mean, that is such late in the 68K life cycle that, I mean, whatever, I don't know. 68040 is sort of the end of the road for the 68,000 series, right? Like Apple moved on to PowerPC by then, and Commodore, I mean, I'm sure by the time 68060 came out, I don't know for sure, I'm just talking off the cuff here, but Commodore probably went out of business already by then, so these would have been third-party accelerators. The date that was on here is 95 and 96. Well, yeah, Commodore's gone by then, right? But anyways, yeah, it's kind of cool. Now, there is something else that's in here. It says Buddha OS install. Okay, so this, I think, this looks like one of those disk on module things. So IDE interface, yes. So yeah, disk on module. Buddha install. OS 1.3, 2.1, 3.1, Hyperion, licensed by Hyperion, remove after installation. So what this is for is with the Amiga 3000, I would have shown it in the first part, there was a Buddha IDE controller for the Amiga, Zorro 2. And that's, I guess, what this is for. And I don't really know how to use this, and I figured I would have been able to find the drivers, but maybe you need this to actually get that card to work. That computer, if I recall, or that card was made by Individual Computers. And I think it's a German company. And I looked at their website when I was making the video on the 3000, part 1 that is, and they do not ship to the US anymore. Understandably, by the way, because of all the tariff situation and whatever that's going on here, just made it all very, very difficult. And it's in flux constantly. So probably it was easier for them just to be like, no, we're done with the US for now. So it's nice to have this, because if I tried to buy this or order it from them, it wouldn't have been possible. So hopefully this, plus these discs with some cool little utilities, just sort of I mean, I've been able to replicate all these luckily now since making part 1, but that'll make fixing the Amiga 3000 easier. And yes, don't worry, there are more videos coming on that where I struggle to get it working, but I get there in the end. I do get there in the end. So thanks very much for these discs, James, sending this over. And this installer, I need to put this stuff with the Buddha card. That way when I go to use it, I won't misplace it, because I have misplaced things in the past. Actually, I just went over to the pile of Amiga 3000 parts, and here's the card right here, the Buddha Flash 20th Anniversary Edition, and individual computers. There it is. Good hardware for good computers. icomp.de. If you're interested in getting one of these, check out their website. There's a warranty sticker on this card, and yes, an AT Mega or Atmel flash chip here. So this would be the ROM for or autoconfig, Zorro autoconfig, and it looks like a Xilinx CPLD, probably the glue logic or whatever, along with the ROM. It would be programmed to map the IDE into the Zorro bus and stuff like that. I think this is a Zorro 2 card, not a Zorro 3 necessarily. And you can see the discount module that's on there now. And we have the extra one here. So I'll just keep these together. That way I will never misplace them. And the funny thing about this card is you have to realize that when this came out, which was a good number of years ago, SCSI emulators weren't at the place they're at now, where we have Bluesky, Zulu SCSI, all that stuff. And the Amiga 3000 has built-in SCSI, and I think it's okay, it's decently fast, although IDE is 16-bit and SCSI is 8-bit. So it's possible that this is actually faster than the SCSI that's on the 3000. I don't know. Once the computer's working, I can kind of do some benchmarking, I suppose, and we can see which performs better on the Amiga. All right, next up, here's something that my friend at RavenWolf Retro Tech, this is Mike, gave to me, and this was at VCF up in Seattle, and it was some slate coasters with my logo on them. And that's pretty cool. Now, Mike has this wild laser machine that can do this kind of stuff. I think one of the issues, of course, is that to do this well, because there is supposed to be shading in this part of the logo as well, we should have used a halftone. Mike asked me to send my logo over at the very last second, right before VCF, and I didn't have time to properly turn this into a monochrome halftone image. So not just dithered, but like specifically halftoned. And I think the laser would be able to handle that a lot better. But that's pretty darn cool. Oh, and there's a round one as well. So yeah, thanks very much for that, Mike. Mike has a YouTube channel, and he has been recreating, or not recreating, but finishing a game that he started on the 64, 128, 64, 8-bit adventure game that he started in school when he was a kid. And he found the old media that still worked. And he has a bunch of videos where he's been recreating and completing his adventure game. So it was never feature complete. And I think it was assembly language entirely written, because this was, done back in the day. And up at VCF in Seattle, Mike had a cool, well, he has his computer up there showing off the progress of the game, and it has music now, and it's in a working state. It still has a ways to go, but just kind of shows that one person could make an adventure game. It's in the style of Ultima, like one of the early versions. So it's tile-based, top-down view. But yeah, very cool. But yeah, Mike lives down in Eugene area of Oregon, so an hour and a half from me, but I get to see him periodically at our local meetups. But Mike made these for me, and they are freaking cool. I should have given them away to people at the show, and I totally forgot. So maybe I'll bring these to VCF in Dallas, which is coming up in a couple of weeks, and then I can give them away. I'll give them away there. And there's little pieces of slate chipping off the edges, falling under the bench. All right, I have a little package here. It comes from Juan in Houston, Texas. Hi to all my Texas viewers. And as I just mentioned, I will be at Dallas VCF in a couple weeks. It's the 19th of May while I'm making this video, and I will be there at the very end of the month. So if you are in the Dallas area, come see me and say hi. Oh, wow. It's a PC Engine. I've never seen one in person. It's so small. That is freaking cool. There's a note, if I can dig up the note here. I'm glad you enjoyed the Alpha Smart. This time I'm sending you my PC Engine. I got it at a garage sale, but I was never able to get it to work. It turns on, but there's no video output. I'm also including the multi-game cart that I was never able to test. Don't think that's what that is. Good luck, and keep up the great work. Thank you, Juan. That's awesome. It's funny, someone recently sent me, and I don't know what I did with it. It was a TurboGrafx 16, which of course is the US version of the PC Engine. So this is an 8-bit game console. It's 8-bit, but it actually has a pretty fast 8-bit processor, and then the graphics that are on this thing are decidedly 16-bit generation. So that's where the whole generation thing is so ridiculous with these game consoles. if you think about it, the Super NES, I mean, it's 16-bit, but it's a 6502. It's a 65C816, but that's just essentially a 6502 with some 16-bit extension sort of tacked onto it. Same, well, not on that console, but if you use one of those processors on a computer, same 40-pin package. So it's hardly 16-bit. But of course, the graphics on the Super Nintendo, when did that come out? 91, I think. They're amazing. You know, that's far improved from the original NES because, of course, we have years of progress. This was 86, 87. So while it's sort of straddling the generations, it's what people consider a 16-bit processor or a console. And that's why TurboGrafx 16, but it's like an NEC. I think it's a variant of the 6502, 8-bit, but I think it runs at like 7 or 8 megahertz. And if you know something like the Commander X16, and that has an 8 megahertz 6502 in the base normal configuration, and is very, very capable, especially because the Vero graphics on the Commander X16 give it like SNES-like capabilities, tile-based graphics and pushing lots of pixels and stuff like that. The 6502 is a very, very efficient processor, and with bank switching, which I'm sure this thing uses, you get access to a bunch of memory, and yeah. Anyways, it's very small. I love this. This is the Japanese version of the TurboGrafx 16. On the back here, well, it's all in Japanese. Why don't we switch cameras? All right, so there it is. There's the PC Engine. So antenna switch. It says 1 or 2. Okay, that's for the channel. Gamepad input, which without a multi-tap, you can just plug in one controller. That was NEC's silliness. On or off. Green power switch there. Oh, okay. And it locks the Hue card, I think this is called, the game card that plugs in there. Were all games on this? I thought the North American version had these. No, that was the Sega Master System. Could take cards here or a plug-in cartridge. Anyways, sort of like a card that goes in there. Power input, almost certainly center negative, and then the expansion bus. So unless you're plugging in an antenna in, you need this to actually get the video output. And yes, we have, I think, RGB, along with stereo audio composite and kind of a multi-IO, probably similar to the Mega Drive 2, RCA, or Mega Drive 2. Okay, so you can either use these as the outputs or flip the switch, and then it uses this expansion connector, which is the same as the Saturn and the Mega Drive 2, I think. Very cool. This is not the original one. It would have had something that originally sort of clamped onto the back or something. I don't know what the version for this looked like, but the one on the US TurboGrafx 16 was like this giant plug-in thing on the back that plugged into the same connector, I think, and then just gave you these extra ports. It's funny in a way to have such a capable console, like when it, you know, RGB and all this stereo sound, and to just give RF. But I guess size-wise, makes sense. I don't know. The TurboGrafx 16, the US version, is much bigger, so it's even more strange. It's like lacking all the ports. And here's the multi-cart. Wow, that is really cool. This is the Turbo ED from 2024. Got an Altera Max 2X, it looks like. It's a flash memory. So probably what happens is give you a boot menu of some kind, and then our little SD card. I never know if it's like the push-in type. No, that's just the type you push in. It doesn't have the clicky slot. Loads the contents of the game into the flash memory. I don't know how the mappers and stuff work, because I assume it has something like that to do with bank switching. Very cool. And it's the correct thickness, and you can see they bevel the edge. So this goes in to here, like so. Cool. Very neat. Well, this will be really fun to play around with, and it's funny because, like I was saying about the TurboGrafx 16, I think I gave it away to one of the members in our local community because I didn't have the controller or a multi-cart or really anything for it. Is this looks like a extension cable for, well, I think this might, I don't even know what this cable's for. This is not the correct cable to plug into this DIN connector. This seems like a Mac serial port extension cable. That's not, oh, here. Oh, it's for the controller port. Oh, that's so funny. So it uses the same thing as the Macintosh serial port. I just happen to have one sitting right here on my bench because I've been working on some Mac stuff. So there's a Mac serial cable. It like goes to a D sub. Does that fit in there? Yep, sure does. Okay, no wonder why I was sitting there confused. I think this has a really short cable because in Japan that was very typical for controllers just to have a very short cable. I guess typically you'd sit near your TV and have the game console plugged into it. And Famicom is the same thing, short cables. And even the Super Famicom has a really short cable. So this would be for the controller pad. There we go. And like I said, to use multiple, you need a multi-tap. Neat. So you have 3 settings of turbo for the 2 buttons. I mean, it's kind of a clone of the NES controller, isn't it? Just 2 buttons, start and select. Well, run and select. D-pad that's less good. Oh, this one feels okay. It's kind of yellowed a little bit, but you have turbo settings. Okay, well, cool. This will be a fun revival or attempted revival. I got no idea what's in here. Is this like all through-hole components or what? But I'm going to have to definitely take a look to see if I did give away the TurboGrafx 16, because now there's the components that I have to run it. Like, I'm sure it's the same controller, and not to mention fixing this would have been good to have those extra parts from the TurboGrafx 16. But I'm pretty sure I gave it away at our meetup, thinking, oh, you know, I'm never going to use it because I don't have all the parts to use it, and I have a Mister, so I can run the games on there, like Bonk's Adventure and stuff like that. Whoops! I guess being a hoarder would have been beneficial, but I didn't do it. So, anyways. So Juan, thanks very much for giving this to me. And as mentioned in the letter, the Alpha Smart, this was, there was a video, I think it might have been a Turbo Mail Call, where it was like a little child computer for kids in school. It was like a 2-line display, and it had a keyboard and a cable to hook up to a Macintosh. And I'm looking at my mail call list, and I have Juan down as Jose. So Jose probably goes by Jose, not Juan. And it looks like I got that package, and it was in Turbo Mail Call episode 1. And it says here, Alpha Smart School Computer and 1571 drive board. Yeah, people have been asking about my 1571, the broken disk drive that I spent a whole episode trying to fix. I have multiple replacement motherboards now from people to try to help me get that working. So don't worry, it will come back. It's actually been sitting on the floor over back there, taken apart for like since last year. So I do need to get back to that because I want to put it back together and just get it off the floor at least. It was a 1551 disk drive that is for the +4 TED type computers. It plugs into the cartridge port. The case was smashed. It was sent in by Mike, who donated a bunch of stuff like the Acorn Archimedes there, among other things, a bunch of other Italian computers, Olivetti stuff. The disk drive got smashed. I put it in the case of a 1541, but transferred the guts over because they weren't broken. And the machine or the drive works. So none of the PLA type chips in it are bad, because that's very common with those. But the problem is one of the custom chips, like Gatorays or something that are on the board, I think are bad. And it kind of tries to read a disk and just never works. And I never found the exact solution. But I think I have the right parts now to make that thing work again. So don't worry, I will get back to that. But thank you very much, Jose, for sending in this awesome PC Engine. I'm just going to write your name on the bottom so that I remember in the future that it was you who sent this in. And I'm going to use a nice gold Sharpie as well. And I may as well connect up the multi-IO thingamajiggy, and I'll leave that card in there. And I'm going to bag this all up for a future repair episode. Yes, awesome, neat. All right, next up is an item that I brought back from VCF Midwest in Chicago last year. I did not write down who gave this to me. I remember what you look like, but I don't remember your name, unfortunately. I know I have an email about it, so I think we corresponded first. This is a small terminal, and by terminal, it's a printer with a keyboard, and I'm pretty sure, yes, it uses RS-232. Made by Texas Instruments. It's the Silent 700. I think Curious Marcus had a video on this, I recall. Keyboard feels, not great. I think it's a thermal printer. Yeah, it must be. So we have for keyboard models. So there must be a version with the printer that doesn't have the keyboard. Look at that spiral thing. Let me zoom in a little bit. Look at the spiral thing to move the print head. So there's the print head. That needs to turn, and I don't even want to touch it because it's probably greasy. Cartridge port gives you probably additional fonts, maybe. Uppercase, lowercase. Online, not online. Local or copy. So I guess local would be you could type, it would just print immediately. I'm not sure what copy means. Power command, line ready. A couple dip switches down in there. I think 4, maybe. Oh yeah, right there. That's nice of them to actually stick it right there. I actually have a roll of paper that should work in this, but I don't think this necessarily works. And mechanical things like printers aren't always my thing, but it's pretty neat though. And I think it's just a roll of fax paper. Like you can still get that stuff. If we flip this over, yeah, model 703 data terminal. There are both of these. And I think what I heard, how do the batteries even connect? Is this for batteries? If it's for batteries, where are the battery contacts? It looks like there's maybe a little bit of corrosion down there. And I do see, these are both the doors. These fasteners, one of them looks corroded. And it probably was the one that was in there. So unknown condition. This will have to be for a future episode of taking this apart and trying to kind of figure out what's going on. I can see that, yeah, it's not screwed together in the front. But don't remember the specifics on this. I'm going to have to go dig out the email. 20 volts AC as well. That's interesting. I don't even know. Oh, the power supply exists for this. Yes. I was about to say, I don't have the power supply. Like, how am I going to power this up? But this is it right here. Good. I'm glad I had this sitting right next to the printer. There's that funny connector that it uses. So there we have it. Yeah, 20 volts AC. Okay, that's awesome. I mean, I suppose I could just turn this on right now. Let's just see what it does. Oh, there's also a contrast knob. Power input. Yeah, RS-232. And a power switch that, oh, is not good. Oh, yes, okay. It's just very stiff. I'm wondering, looking at this connector, notice how there's 3 pins. Is it center tapped? So 20 volts phase to phase, or not, I don't know, whatever. Winding to winding with a center tap in there, which would be ground. So it's really plus 10 volts. We have 10 volts each way, and it doesn't matter which way you connect this, or does it? Okay, yeah, it goes on one way. It's sort of keyed, sort of. But it's AC, so it shouldn't even matter if it's on the wrong way. I'm plugging this into my power bar thing over here. There it is. Is this on or off? It's off. Let's turn on this power supply first. Okay, so power is applied. Here we go. Flip this up so we can see it move. Dead. Okay. Well, I should put a note in here that we've done some testing. Maybe let's check to see if we actually have something on there. Sort of the first stage of doing the diagnosis. But this, as I say, of course, this was be for future work. So first we'll set that to AC mode. Put the black one in the middle. Let's see if we have anything. Yes, 14 volts on that side. We're going to have 14 volts on the other side. No. 5 volts. That doesn't seem right, does it? 24 volts from pin to pin. Weird. I would have just assumed this was center tapped and it would be the same on both sides, but apparently not. If anyone has one of these and you can check your power supply and just let me know if it's the same. On the actual power supply, doesn't really say. Yeah, 120 volts just says output 20 volts AC. And it is plastic staked, so I can't easily take this apart. I mean, there's a piece of tape on here, but that doesn't do anything. It is entirely possible there is very good documentation for this out there. I've done zero research looking that up, but it would be kind of fun to try and make this thing work again. Although I gotta admit that like mechanical stuff like this, not exactly my forte. Better with the circuitry than trying to get things like this working, but it still could be something simple, or it could be tons of corrosion inside and everything is destroyed. I can see on the back here, date code of 1985, 35th week, and the keyboard, which you can just see the bottom of the PCB sticking through the battery compartment, says NMB High-Tech. So High-Tech made this. It's not terrible feeling, but it's also really not good either. Well, thank you to whoever gave this to me. I wish I had written your name down on it. I looked at my email just now and I don't see an email, but that could be because the message was on Discord or Patreon or somewhere else. And of course, that stuff is very hard to search and it's such a pain in the butt. So yeah, generally I like to always write on the bottom with a Sharpie just so I know where it came from. Anyhow, if you have any tips on getting these things working, and I know Curious Mark, like I said, has a video. I'm pretty sure he does. Check that out. If you have any tips, that will be for a future video. But I do need to write on here with a note that it is dead. Does not power up. That'll just help me when I go to check it out at some point in the future. All right, next thing comes from John over in the UK. This was a cool board that he got for me and sent it over. And it came from eBay in the UK. Of course, the seller wasn't going to ship over to me. So this came from John, who kind of like got it for me and then sent it over. And sent over some candy here, the All-Rounders. Black currant licorice. Oh yeah, John asked if or what kind of candy I liked. I haven't really done anything candy-wise on the channel in forever. Black currant is something I absolutely, positively love. I don't know the All-Rounders brand by, I think it's like Buchanan's is the brand. Licorice I don't love, so I guess it'll be interesting. And that by licorice, I think it's like, you know, anise flavor or anise, however you want to pronounce it. But I love black currant. Okay, well, that's an interesting candy. It's kind of a hard candy, very black currant flavored on the outside, which I love. But then on the inside, I'm scared that it's full of licorice. And it does say on the ingredients that it has sweetened condensed milk, also palm oil, which is like not super healthy for you, salt, emulsifier, rapeseed, lecithin. That's like canola oil for those in the US if you're not familiar with it, flavoring and colors. So I don't know about the licorice stuff because on the outside it really only tastes like black currant, which is amazing. I love black currant candy. I'm just a huge fan. Anyhow, let's look at the boards. Enough about the candy. I'll eat that later. Right, so these boards, they are curious things. I don't remember the specifics at this point, what these even are. But I think this was something for the Amiga that would, let's see, is that 23 pin? Yes, I think this connects to the Amiga and this converts, or gosh, I just don't recall exactly what this does. But you'll notice it has delay lines on it, custom ICs. We have some static RAM, so this is a kind of a frame buffer thing. I think this does conversion from NTSC to PAL, and it's an old school way of doing it with frame buffers and complicated stuff. So yeah, Philips, 270 nanoseconds, so a delay line there. And this one here, DL710. Yeah, don't know exactly, but we have some hybrid modules. This chip, who knows what this is, 1988 date code, but yeah, these are obviously SRAM chips. TDA 3562A, and what I assume is a composite video output jack. So yeah, it's kind of a curious thing. A pin header there that does something, and these are two of the same boards. So if you're watching this and you recognize what this is, or maybe John can comment in the comment section, because John picked up one of these for himself and I just thought it sounded really interesting. And of course, these delay lines that do the PAL, old school PAL, not common in the US at all. You know, these types of chips and stuff like that. So yeah, it's very curious, but I'm pretty sure this plugs into the Amiga. So this was something that was for the Amiga 23 pin. Oh, you know how I can tell? I happen to have an Amiga thing right here. Does this plug in together? Yeah, sure it does. So that's even more confusing to me because this board itself can't plug into the Amiga. It's really because this connector is what goes into an Amiga motherboard. The gender of this connector here, this male connector, is what's on the Amiga itself. So now I kind of wonder, is this for plugging into like an RGB monitor, like a 1084, and then you get composite input? Yeah, I just don't know. You know, we have pots you could think for RGB. Kind of looking at the way this works, RGB. Oh, I see those hybrids have some ICs on it. 2 potentiometers. These inductors, variable inductors maybe, another potentiometer there. So yeah, a lot of questions. I have a lot of questions. And I don't have quite a lot of answers, but these seem really interesting. They're in good shape, probably unused. And I think the ears are both identical. So there's the other one. This one maybe was used. Oh, yep, okay. Just seeing if these are the same. They look the same. Anyhow, yeah, interesting. I'll be very curious if anyone watching recognizes this, or John's watching can probably comment to let me know what these are, but I could just ask John as well. John figured it out at some point, and I just don't remember because there's a lot going on in my mind all the time, and maybe it's age. It's easy to start forgetting stuff. I am in my 50s now. I do have to thank John, though, for packaging this up, or getting it for me originally, and then packaging it up and sending it to me here in the US, because it's a bit of a pain because of the aforementioned tariff situation. Although I think it's gotten a little bit easier, and I think Royal Mail in the UK can easily send to the US now. I think there are just some costs associated on the front end, and when it comes to the US, that stuff's all been paid, and I didn't have to go, you know, pay something to have this delivered, like a duty and stuff like that. Anyhow, thanks very much, John, for this. Okay, so next up is something from Denmark, actually. And it comes from Jonas in Denmark. So hi to all my Danish viewers. And it's a CD. Now, I'm not going to play this on this video. Yeah, it was actually made by Jonas. Hopefully, there's a website on here. We can go look that up. Because there's definitely stuff on the label here, but I kind of want to talk about this because it's really, really cool. And if we take a look at the CD, from my understanding, I'll just zoom up on this a little bit. This is like a, I guess, how do you explain it? It's like a damaged CD, so you can hear flaws in the error correction and in a musical way. And circle music CD. And it kind of says it here, strictly intended for playback on hardware CD players. Listener discretion is advised. Limited edition, fixed media, no official digital file edition ever. And the reason why is because, like I said, this is damaged, and we'll see when we look on the backside. And you know, you can't really, I mean, unless we digitize the output from the CD player, but I think every time you play this, it will sound different. On different CD players, it will sound different. Support the compact disc, it says right there. And let's see here. This will produce audible artifacts different in nature depending on the CD player itself, used for playback. Tracks 1 to 6 are recordings of track 8, applying different forms, sorry about how I'm doing this, of physical scratches. So those like purposeful defects in the disc that render in different ways depending on the way the CD player handles the errors. It says this will produce, oh, we already read that. I think, here we go. All bits at 0, 5 minutes. This CD is inscribed with physical defects, scratches with a needle, covering tracks 8, which consists of 22 kilohertz inaudible sine wave. Okay, this will produce audible artifacts. All right, so yeah, and there's like different tracks on here. And let's look at the back, and you can kind of see what we're talking about here. Actually, I'll take it out of the case so we don't have that glare, because we already have enough glare. So it's obviously, the CD was made on some kind of a CD burner, because you can tell it's a burned CD. Oh, it's really hard to get this to focus. But yeah, there's Jonas's name, Circle Music CD. And then, I mean, yeah, because remember, CD players play from the inside out. But I think there are, like, the burner that made this, there's digital artifacts inside the actual data that's written to it. And then there's physical artifacts right there made with a needle. And what's this, actually? Is that like a... Yeah, I didn't make that. That's not a smudge. So that's like some kind of a defect as well. And that, I mean, that, oh, that's a fingerprint that I must have put there. Okay. So we wiped that off. Anyhow, yeah, I did listen to this. You can just kind of make out some of the stuff that's going on, but it's like wild what's happening out here in the edge too. Really, really, really wild. As I say, I'm trying to get to focus here. Come on, focus. Bin 00-49. So I did play this on my CD player in the living room, because I do keep a CD player up there. And yeah, it's just kind of like this rhythmic, like interesting CD player errors. I think based on what we just saw on the top there, that it is silent. Like the track that's actually there is silent. It's a sine wave that has no volume to it. So all the actual sound you're hearing is the error correction circuitry. And it's pretty fascinating. So I do have a CD player that I want to work on the channel. Like I have a couple that I need to kind of tune up and put together. And I think it'll be perfect to play this CD. Let's go see if I can find the website for this so you can order one of these yourself, because it's pretty darn cool. All right, cool, I found it. It took me a little bit of time. I had to find the email from Jonas. So CDR Enhanced Limited Edition, 200 to 500 RPM, yep, from Denmark, experimental glitch music, and there are the tracks. And then we have the 22 kilohertz track, 10 minutes, and silence all bits at 0. So I guess front ending or both sides of that track. And that has the damaged part, right, with the needle. And then these are those different errors, I think, that are introduced into it. Anyhow, this is for sale. You can pick one up yourself here from Discogs. I will put a link in the description for this, 17 bucks. I mean, before shipping and stuff like that. And yeah, oh, here it is, a little bit more information. Tracks will produce audible artifacts, different in nature. It's kind of what we read that was written on there. Tracks 1 to 8 are recordings of track 8, applying different forms of physical scratches. I mean, we didn't see physical scratches on the disc, but I can tell you that as soon as you start playing track 1, it plays, but it has all these weird noises in it. The results can be described as rhythmic studies, some surprisingly jazzy in nature. Timbre-wise, only pure artifacts are heard. So this is coming from the circuitry in the CD player, contrary to earlier CD glitch experiments from Oval and Yasunao. Boy, my pronunciation's bad. Tone. These were pre-existing audio and the data being manipulated by the damage to the media. The listener is encouraged to vary the playback of track 8 by forwarding and reversing the playback and further scratching the CD to explore variations. I love that. A data track also is available that contains a PDF. Oh, okay, from 1996, strictly intended for playback on hardware CD player. Listener discretion is advised. Well, that's because some CD players don't blank out the audio on data tracks. And I know my like 80s players won't, because there was no such thing as like whichever the audio standard is, I forgot what it is, for CDs that does computer audio, that or computer data, that is. So Redbook audio, I think, is like the actual regular CD player standard, but there's another book for the data storage. Newer players will actually blank the audio, so you won't hear it, it'll mute it. But older ones won't. So I'm thinking that this PDF data interchange on read-only, that's obviously the Redbook audio right there, right? This is the PDF, I guess, data, or the book that has to do with data interchange. So it's gonna be loud. Anyways, as I said, this will be something for future listening and playback. I don't want to spoil the CD, but I highly recommend you pick up one of these from Jonas here, because it's such a cool concept, and I can guarantee you that I put this in my player upstairs and it works, and it plays very interesting sounding sounds. So there we go. Thank you very much, Jonas, for sending this in. As I said, very cool, very, very cool. I love experimenting like this. Neat. All right, here's the next little thing I got. This came from Andreas, and this is a new to me at least, open source DRAM tester. And the cool thing about it is it can test these ZIF memory modules, which I struggle with on the Amiga, although those ones I think are all fine. But it can do ZIP, which is zigzag inline package, I think that stands for. And then we have a 0 insertion 4 socket for different types of memory. And you can do 20 pin, 18 pin, and 16 pin memory. And this is open source, so this is available on GitHub. Now, I'm just grabbing a couple other RAM testers that I've shown on the channel previously. So I have this one that was also sent in by a viewer. Now I have tape over this socket because it supports 4116 DRAM, which uses these voltages. So you would destroy a chip if you put it in there. So those types go on there, and then there is this one as well. These are not open source, so Simon made these, 4-bit DRAM tester revision 2, and a 1-bit version, both by Simon. And I added this label here because I just never could remember the color coding. So every time you put a chip in there, like so you put a 4116 in there, there are 4 blocks of 4 kilobit that make up the DRAM inside. So it will show you if all of them are good or some of them are bad. And we had to have color coding. So no block, red block is bad. So if one of those lights is red, if all 4 are red, the whole chip is bad, but you could have partially bad. This will tell you how big the block size is. So 4 kilobit, that's for the 4116. 16 kilobit, obviously, for 4164s. Magenta would be for 256 kilobit chips. So 4 64K blocks and 1 meg chips. So these are good testers. I've used these quite a bit. they can test out of the board if you have a problem with, like, say, page errors inside the chips and stuff like that. So they're kind of useful. And this one, I think, just does a single LED. What does this one test? I can't remember. I think I always use this one. But anyways, these are still available on eBay. But then this one is the open source version. And we have an LED there, USB-C. And let's go look at the GitHub repo. And the QR code that was on the RAM tester actually took me to this page. So here it is, vintage DRAM tester for 15 different RAM types. Wow. Fast, precise, open for many 860-bit systems. What it is, oh yeah, you can add a screen. So the little OLED screen can go on there. Oh, well, that's obviously something I need to do, I think. Now that I think about it, I'm not sure if this tester is actually the up-to-date one that I was supposed to be looking at. Yeah, because you know what? I'm pretty sure this was an older one that Andreas sent me, and Andreas was from Switzerland. And there's got to be another package around here that I haven't opened, and I need to go look for it because I'm pretty sure this was the old one, because I think in my mail call log I saw that this one was sent in before, and there were some slight issues with this, and there's a new revision, and I'm sure that's what Andreas sent me. So let me go spend a moment to search for that, and then I'll be back. Because I'm like, this was sitting over here with these other two DRAM testers, and it was Mark who sent these in to me. So thank you very much for that, Mark, a while back. But I need to go find the new one. Yes, I had the package. So there's the new reader with the screen, an adapter for 4116 RAM chips, same one that goes in this socket. So this one, the way it would work, there's some pin headers you have to solder on, so that would put into there, which is pretty sweet, actually. And the biggest thing that's the problem is, of course, you need the 12 volts and the -5 volts for those chips, which this certainly does not generate. So that's obviously what's happening on this little board. So the little ZIF socket is not soldered down to the board. So that's just placed there. Right. So yeah, obviously what we do is we attach these pins to the bottom side first, then we put the ZIF socket in place. And that allows us to plug that into here on demand. There are dip switches for 20, 18 to 16 pin, the zip socket for the zigzag package, a little sticker on there for 18, 16, and 20 pin to tell you to line it up on the top. ICSP in-circuit, what does that stand for? In-circuit system programming, I think it is. Anyways, to program the microcontroller, which is underneath the screen. USB Type-C for power, a small LED right there, and a piece of foam on the bottom so that it sits on your desk very nicely. That's a pretty nice improvement. And compared to the other one, very, very similar looking. I guess the biggest difference is the pin header for the screen. It's there, it's just 4 pins. And I wonder if it's just those same 4 pins right there. So this screen could work on here, it would just be shifted over slightly. The URL for the repo, I'll have it in the description below, but it's right here as opposed to a QR code on this one. Andreas sent along a few mini Haribo packages. That's very cool, little snack packs. But we need to get this fired up, and I went and I grabbed the dead parts bin. So here it is, and inside of this there are going to be some bad RAM chips that we can pull out of there and actually put this thing through its paces. So I'm just going to spend a moment to put this one together, because 4116 chips are great and important to test as well. I just need to make sure I do this correctly. All right, so just trying to think of how to put this together. So obviously the pin header needs to go in first like this so that it doesn't overlap the screen. And then the ZIF socket goes there. And my assumption is I'm going to have to put these pin headers in, and then I'm going to have to cut the pins flush. Or when I solder them in, I'm just trying to think of the best way to do that. All right, that is done. It is all together. So looking at this board, -5 OK, 12 OK, set 20 pin mode. That would be on the tester. So on here, you set the dip switch for 20 pin mode, and on the bottom, everything is soldered up. And I did cut off the tops of the pins underneath the socket. Otherwise, it really wouldn't sit. I mean, it's not perfectly flush, but at least all the pins are sticking through the board. There's the URL for the GitHub repo again, and RAM tester for 116 adapter. And of course, we can put the adapter into to here like this. There we go. That works perfectly. All right, first off, testing. Will this work with a power supply that is USB power delivery? And that's what this is. It's not just a normal 5-volt power supply, it's actually power delivery. Nice. Oh, very cool. Look, the QR code right on the screen there, so you can measuring our resistors okay, checking shorts, no shorts found. Wire pin 20 to all. Okay. Wow, that's a very bright LED right there. Looks like it's dual color. Can't really tell. I think it's green and red right now. Wow, it's like eye-piercingly bright. So I suppose when everything is in the off position, it goes into a self-test mode. And you set one of the positions, and then it will try to detect the ROM or RAM. I assume right now it's not going to detect anything until you hit the reset button. So I'm going to unplug this and plug in the adapter, and let's see if those voltage rails come up. The -5 and the +12 rails. I guess so. They're both green. Now, I suppose before I should test anything on here, what we need to do is look up the supported types of memory this supports. Is it only DRAM or can it do SRAM as well? And what kind of testing does it do? I mean, these are questions I certainly have, and they're probably questions that you have as well. So let's see what it says. Okay, so yeah, 15 different types, as I mentioned. Key features: static column support, nibble mode support. So I don't even know what 44258 and 514402 are. And I think 41257 is like a variant on the 256. It's like compatible. You can use it in place, but it must support this nibble mode support. And then of course it has the zip sockets, direct test of 20-pin zip RAM without an adapter. Self-test mode, that was one we saw when all the switches were set to off. Automatic detection, and here are all the DRAM types. Okay, so it is DRAM that it's testing. So 4116, and it has a number 1 there because that's the one that needs that adapter. And I assume this 4K variant does as well, but the 4816 is a 16 kilobit chip that doesn't need the extra voltage rails. So that's why it doesn't have the little 1 there. And then we have a 2 for these 2 modules, 32K. Oh, is that what the ZX Spectrum uses? Half good 4164 sold as 32K. Yep, that is what the ZX Spectrum uses. Static column means that the RAM allows column changes while CAS is held low faster than standard page mode. Nibble mode delivers 4 consecutive bits with 1 column address. The above test times include the OLED display. Without display, test durations are about 1 second shorter. Yeah, I noticed when I was updating the OLED, because it is just a SPI screen, it was kind of slow. So I guess that adds into the time. So there's our test times. Up to 25 seconds for a 1 megabyte or 1 megabit chip. It's 1 meg by 1. Funny that the 4-bit version is actually shorter time. Maybe because it spends less time with the retention. Looks like the retention time is longer, so refreshing is not as frequent. 20-pin zip, no. So it can't test the 20-pin version of this, or it doesn't exist. Right. I think this is the type of chip the Amiga uses right here, 514402. Anyhow, test procedure: insert your device, set the dip switch to the correct pin count, set the operation manual, connect the power, or press reset if already powered, and then it does a test. Okay. And this is what's funny. This is not me. Even though this blue mat looks like my bench, that is not my bench. And this is obviously the older version because the screen is over to the side and the reset button is up at the top. So that's the first version I had, this one right here. So it does support a screen. All right, so what kind of testing does this use? Oh, it looks like it does not use March testing, March B in the case of this example. It's just using patterns and some other test stuff. So obviously what you're gonna miss is descending page errors or addressing errors like inside the chip that it won't catch. It will only catch the ascending version, but of course March B won't really be able to test the retention stuff. So typically if you want to test for retention, that would be like if the chip is out of spec and it doesn't retain the contents, like for the specified amount, the actual data sheet amount, then you would have to add that to March B. And here is a little blurb on why this is probably better than many other Arduino-based RAM testers. Of course, this tests for address line faults, and that's a pretty big deal because I've definitely had plenty of chips. It's not super common, but I've had chips with the addressing faults inside. This is much faster. If you build one yourself, this actually has a ZIF socket, which is nice, and it does 4 or 1-bit circuits on the same tester. This one tester pretty much does everything. And obviously with this little adapter, then you get those extra voltage rails. No protection against shorts, no checks for broken chips, like short to ground, no retention tests possible. Many use simple all 0 or all 1 tests. Yeah, this is not talking about something like the Retro Chip Tester Pro, which does have March testing, by the way. But that's a very expensive device that tests a lot of stuff, but it tests DRAM quite well. Although the biggest problem with all of these, and this is not going to be any different here, this is a CMOS device. It is not TTL. So the threshold levels on this are not the same as the TTL memory. This old memory, like the NMOS stuff, is TTL. So like the really old stuff, like 4116 and 4164s. Therefore, this could say stuff is good when it's bad in a real computer, or vice versa. And I've had that on the Retro Chip Tester Pro, and I've also had it on these as well. It's just the problem with using these modern microcontrollers is you can't replicate the exact TTL levels and thresholds of these old chips. So that's just something to watch out for. I don't know if it's going to say that here. Doesn't really talk about that, but that is something to keep in mind. And even like the Mini Pro or the TL866 or whatever it's called these days, the EEPROM programmer that can test some stuff, same problem exists there. It's not TTL based, therefore the threshold levels are different, and you're going to have stuff that sometimes tests good or bad that is actually going to work or not work in the computer. So I've had plenty of stuff like that happen. Case in point, I had DRAM tested bad in the Retro Chip Tester Pro. It was 4464 stuff, but it worked perfectly in Commodore 64s. Zero issues. And I'm sure it's just because there's something to do with like the threshold levels of those chips, like the output drivers aren't giving a level that's right for the CMOS stuff, but TTL was like, oh, no problem, and I'm going to work perfectly. Anyhow, back to the repo. You can buy them on eBay, Tindy, AmiBay. Of course, you can make yourself because there's a PCB way. What does THT stand for? I don't know, but there it is. Oh, it's a through-hole version. Oh, oh, that's really cool. It's also by Andreas, by the way. So much easier to make if you don't want to do surface mount like on this. It's just a little bit bigger. That is awesome. I really got to say. Definitely there are people who are like, you should just be using surface mount. It's so much quicker and easier. But you know what? For the hobbyist, it's not, because you really do need to have some skills or just learn how to do the small little tiny components. I mean, like the resistors on here are so small. And if you have bad eyesight or you don't have magnification, all that stuff, it's not easy. Once you have those tools, yeah, sure, it's probably easier to put together stuff that's surface mount because you can just drop parts on there, use hot air. It's pretty simple. But through hole, it's like anyone can do it. You just need like a $10 soldering iron and you can make it. I got lost on my little rant there. Schematics available, software, firmware with flashing instructions. We probably have to use the in-circuit debugging header to do it. I doubt it's over USB. I wonder when this new firmware came out that supports these extra chips. I'm probably going to have to learn how to flash this firmware. It probably shows on screen and I just missed it. But anyways, yeah, you do use the ISP header, and you can use another Arduino to connect to it. And you can use the TL866, these as well. It has a header right there, so you can use that. There's lots of ways to do it. In fact, yeah, T48, that's this exact one right here. This is the T48. Anyhow, I will not do that in this video, but I bet you I need to do it because firmware 5 months ago, well, no, yeah, here we go, look at this. 423 came out 2 months ago. I've had this for longer than that. I think Andreas sent this like probably 5 months ago or so. It might have been last year actually, so it's probably out of date. Anyhow, enough faffing about on my part. Let's get this plugged in. And let's, first of all, I'm going to turn the switch to off and let's do the reset so it does a thing. There it is, 4.1.0. And yeah, 4.2.3 is the latest. Okay, well, at least it's not the ancient firmware, but it's definitely something I need to update. And I should probably do the same to this one because I would imagine these are both compatible with each other. And then I can pass this off to like someone in the local community here in Portland. In fact, I'm thinking Mike, who made the coasters for me, this would be perfect for him because he fixes a lot of 64s and stuff like that. And I don't know if he has a RAM tester. So I think this will be perfect for him. All right, dead parts bin. Look at all this. Look at this dead 68030. This is from that Mac that I killed. 12 volts went into that thing. I'm going to dig around in here. This thing is extremely full. In fact, there's another bin altogether that like overflowed from this into the other bin because this is all stuff that I have fixed over the years. So I'm going to look through here and find some bad DRAM chips, and I'm sure there are plenty of them. That is not one. And then we'll do some testing. Okay, well, I didn't want to dig in there too long. I found 2 that are bad, and definitely everything in that bin is bad. And I can tell you that I put it in there because I took it out of a computer that was having problems with it in there. This is a bunch of, well, presumably good DRAM. What do we got here? We got 4416s. Those are something that this can test for sure. This is 4164, 4164, lots of 4164s. Those are SRAM. These are 53C 104s. These are definitely DRAMs. I just don't know exactly what type. Probably 1 meg or something like that. And these say something 256, 256. It's a 4-bit wide 256. Why don't we try one of these? This might take a long time to test, but this should work in here without any problem. So the notch goes up to the top. So there's pin 1. I'm probably going to draw on that with a little marker. This is a 20-pin chip. So we just flip that switch, hit the reset button, and now it should go. Oh yeah, look, there it is, detected 514256. Well, that was fast. That was super fast. Wow. Now it's interesting that the blink code, green and then kind of an orange color, but screen tells all. I love how quick that was. Let's try one more time. Wow, that's neat. That's very neat. Okay, we'll just grab another random chip here. So this is obviously a 16-pin chip. So we'll flip that switch, push the button. There it is, 4164, and it does detect it correctly, 64K by 1. I just don't understand the blink codes, but the screen tells us that this is a good chip. Cool. All right, let's try one of these bad chips. This is 4164 as well, same as what we just tested, but it is marked as bad. Short on pin 1. Oh, there you go. And pin 1 is definitely up at the top. We'll try it one more time. Yep. Okay. Don't know where this came out of. Funny, it doesn't have the X of shame on it, but it was in the dead parts bin. So back it goes. And then this one is a 4464. This is probably totally shorted. I wouldn't be surprised if this one came out of a Commodore 64 short board. So we'll flip the middle switch, push that. Bet you there's a short on pin 15. Yeah, well, these get really hot in the 64 when they fail. So that's like a telltale sign. Let's try this chip here. I don't recognize like what this is. 53C 104 AP80. It's definitely RAM, but what kind, I don't know. So back to 20 pin, push reset. Oh, so 4-bit wide, 256 kilobit. And it's good. Nice. I think that's the same as these right there. Oh, and there's a zip chip just sitting here too. We'll test that as well. I'm going to move these 2 chips up here next to their family members. That way they're all together. All right, so we have some more RAM chips on here. So we'll pop that in there. These should all be good. Switch this over to 14 pin. 41256. That's what I thought. Takes a bit of time. The pins are very bent on this zip. Is this the right number of pins? Yes, that is. I do wish the zip socket was the type that had like dual wipe and not these round hole ones, because these can be really difficult to get these packages into. All right, that chip is good. All right, so the notch, or which is pin 1, is over here on the left, and there's a notch on this. This is a 44 1000. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Can it test this? Maybe. Well, it all depends if I can get the pins into these sockets. without folding any over. Okay, they are all in. So we set this to 20 pin, like that, hit reset. Okay, yeah. Oh, so this is the same kind of chip that goes in the Amiga 1000 as well. 414400. By the time we got to these chips, the part numbers got all weird. Like you can't just read the part number on there and know what it is. It is good though, because yeah, this says 44C1000. So that tells me it's 4 bits wide and 1 megabit, but the 44 or 514400, like, anyways, cool. That works as well. So now that I know that's on there, so I'll stick that back on my sheet here. Now I do have some 4116 chips here, so you can't tell by the part number. HM50 256. Oh, you know what? I guess these are 256 kilobit chips. Let's just try one. I thought these were 4416s. I don't think that is the case. Let's try. Oh yeah, that is a 41256, a ceramic package. It must have been expensive. So I got a bunch of those. These are all those same packages. Oh yeah, and some Intel versions of those as well. All right, well this chip here, I think this is a 4116, even though it just says 416. Oh yeah, 4116 right there, 300 nanoseconds. Let's test that in the adapter. So when we look at this, I'm quite sure it doesn't supply power until it actually starts the testing phase. So that means when we take the adapter, which is here, I don't think it's going to do anything when I first put this in. No. Yeah, see, it doesn't really do anything. There's no power on it, which is what you expect. But it says it wants us to set it to 20 pin. Oh, as soon as you do, power appears or the lights turn on. Okay, well, that's interesting. But pin 1, I'm assuming, is up here. Okay, so I'll put in the chip like so. All right, well, here we go. So it's set for 20 pin, power's there. There's the chip, press the button. There it is, 4116, and it's good. Nice, that's cool. And I suppose the only thing that, would be cool from a future design, Andreas, is if, let's turn the power off. So there's the power gone. I would love it if maybe the sockets were side by side or, maybe over on this side, just so it was all in one, you wouldn't lose it. And then maybe you'd have an extra switch to turn this off and on. That way you had to, take the extra effort to do that. I don't know. I mean, it's sort of like this one in a way, but I get confused. I mean, the problem is all these sockets, or these two, are identical. So it's dangerous, which is why I put a piece of tape over that one. But these are different size sockets, and, it could easily, we just, a sticker just like that, that's like 4116 only on there. And that way the power conversion circuitry and everything would just be all together. Because now I have to make sure I don't misplace this. But I suppose it's, I don't know. The fact this has a screen on it is so handy compared to this one, which, I had to put this sticker on there to help decode it. So I love this. And it's open source. This is awesome. This is so freaking awesome. So thank you very much, Andreas, for sending me the latest version. And I do have your email address. I'm going to email you about the old one here. I'm pretty sure I just need to update this one. And then I'll give it over to, I'll give it to Mike over at RavenWolf Retro Tech. I always have a hard time saying his channel name. Imagine saying that like 10 times quickly. But he could probably use this. And I'm pretty sure I have another one of these SPI OLED screens floating around. So I might be able to dig that out and then pop it on here. Unless there's a hardware issue with this one, it does say, does it have a version of the hardware revision on here? I don't necessarily see it. This will probably be a big help for Mike. But if he does have a Retro Chip Tester Pro, then I might just be like, I'm going to give this to someone else in the local group here in Portland who could really use this. But I do highly recommend this project because, yeah, like I said, open source. And if you're looking for a DRAM tester and you want to make it yourself, just get the through-hole version or just have it made a PCB way and make some for your friends. Build up 5 of them because, you have to buy the PCBs 5 at a time. Make one for yourself and give the rest away. Be a good retro citizen. That's what I always say. All right, that is going to be it for this video. This is going to be, I think, Turbo Mini or Turbo Mail Call number 4, I think. I can't remember. It's a Turbo Mail Call number something. I'll put the number on screen. Either way, an hour-long video and I only covered this small, tiny stash, and there's a giant pile of stuff to get through. I barely scratched it in. Oh, wait, there's one more thing that I don't have on the table here. It's the Apple III soft card. But yes, we covered that as well. So there will have to be more videos because I really need to get through this backlog of stuff because I don't like having all that stuff just sort of sitting around. Essentially because I like to, have it available to make videos about, but obviously when it's in a box ready to look at for a video like this, I don't have the ability to do that. Yeah, here it is. Here it is, the Apple III card right there. Anyhow, so if you enjoyed this video, thumbs up. If you didn't, you know what to do. Yeah, we're kind of back to some of these again, and that's just because I kind of let it get out of hand, and I need to stop doing that. I had talked about the fact that when things were sent in or given to me, that I would show them on camera, and I've just been sidetracked with so many projects that I just haven't gotten to it. Anyways, thanks for everyone who gave me stuff or sent things into the channel, which is what you're looking at here. And I will try to get that stuff in the future. And reminder, I'll put dates on screen. VCF Southwest, that will be the Dallas-Fort Worth area, will be coming up very soon. So if you're there in the area, then I will see you there. I will not have a table, but I will be loitering around the whole time. I'm there the whole time. I think it's 3 days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And I will probably figure out someone's table to crash. David from Usagi Electric, probably there, around there. That's most likely where. But I don't know, there's a new venue, it might be big, I don't know how it's laid out. But yeah, you'll find me there. So that's gonna be it. So thanks for everyone again, and thanks for my subscribers, thanks to my supporters, thank you to you, and comment, and all the usual stuff, and stay healthy, stay safe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.